Welcome to our channel, guys. We have a special treat for you today. It's only actually been 4 months since we started doing this YouTube channel, but thanks to everyone's support, we've actually made it up to 846 subscribers, which has just been absolutely incredible for us to see. Believe it or not, 4 months ago when we first uploaded our first video, we had about 46 subscribers just from some promotional stuff that we had been doing for our website. So I thought I'd take this video and go over some of the things we've done in the last 4 months on this channel and talk to you guys about some of the projects we're working on right now and kind of give you an overview of everything we got going so far. Of course, our first major YouTube video was about this 1956 resorter that we found rotting in a field and we picked up for 1,500 bucks. You guys are well aware of this boat here. We have this project series. I'll link up in the top here. You guys can check it out. Here's some footage from the last 4 months of working on this boat. That brings us up to today, where now we are doing the framework. We've been building some of the frames off camera. It's a little bit monotonous to show you every single frame that we rebuild, but we're slowly making our way through stages on here. We're making sure too that we're alternating between the frames. So we have an old one, a new one, old one, new one, just to keep the keel under some sort of control as we work on it. Take a look at how flat the top of the keel is. You can see it's a big improvement from where it was in the past. If you remember, there was a huge dent right in this area, and it's almost just about perfect. We got a little bit more to go to get it up, but once we get these main frames replaced, we're gonna have it up just a little bit more, and we should be good to go. As for the engine, we got it sitting up here on this engine stand, and we're just waiting to go ahead and get some of these parts cleaned. We got a bunch of gaskets and stuff coming for some of these areas, and we're gonna be making gaskets for the not too serious ones. These can always be made out of gasket material. We have all the engine parts sitting here, getting ready to be gone through by cue ball to get rebuilt and cleaned up. So that'll be the next bit. I believe I'm gonna do a video on disassembling this carburetor and rebuilding the carburetor and possibly the generator, not too sure. Maybe we'll take a look at the brushes in there, see how they're doing. But yeah, that's the state of RatSync right now. And yes, we went with RatSync. That was by far our favorite name, so thank you to this user here. This user JimSpeed1388. We really appreciate that comment, and we're actually gonna go ahead and do that. So we're gonna get cue ball in the future here to paint and letter those words on the back with maybe a bit of a graphic as well, and we'll get that put on to the final varnish for it. So thanks again for the suggestion on that name. That's not the only project we've been working on. We've also been rebuilding this Mercury outboard motor. So right now, it currently has a long leg, that's this section, and we're gonna be adding a shorter leg onto it to replace this entire component for that Mercury outboard engine. And the point of that is that it's gonna go onto the back of this absolutely gorgeous U2 that we're currently rebuilding right now. So we're gonna get this thing all cleaned and polished and put that Mercury outboard onto it. So it's gonna be quite a big motor. We wanted to put a shorter leg on it so that the prop doesn't stick down so far and make this thing such a death trap, but it'll be a lot of fun once we get that massive motor on the back of it. We have plenty of projects that I want to walk you guys through and talk about where they're at and where we've been with them. To start off, let's go over this boat right here. We're going to talk to Artem a little bit about the progress of this boat, what type of boat it is, what it started as, where we are now, you know, that sort of thing, and go over the details of this boat. Artem, what year, make, and model is this boat?
Actually, this is a Stancraft. It's a 1935. It's a very, very interesting, a very simple boat, and I like this boat. The first time when I saw this boat, it's very, very like a junky, and just now it's very beautiful, it's very simple and very good design. I like this boat.
It's one of the oldest Stancrafts known to exist, might even be the oldest. He built 5 of these models. This is hull number 3. There's not another one out there left that we know of. It's a Stancraft actually built by Stan. On the back bulkhead or dash, whatever you want to call it, in the back seat, he actually signed his work. So yeah, that's the signature there. It says Stan Young, Summers, Montana. It was written in pencil, so we when we were repainting that piece, the original piece, we covered that in varnish just to preserve it. It's pretty neat to see a Stancraft built by Stan, because he's been gone for many years. Stan Young, his son, took over Stancraft and ran it for many years, and now it's run by his daughter's husband. But yeah, this is a Stancraft built by Stan. Pretty cool. It has an extremely rare Gray Marine 6160. Power out of a pre-war straight 6 is pretty crazy. It has a very rare aluminum tarantula manifold, so the 3 carburetors sit in a triangular pattern on the side. Most of the motor is made out of aluminum. Pretty neat. It's just being rebuilt by us. It's in the other bay. This boat was built at the height of the Great Depression, so there was some choices made in its construction that definitely reflect the era. Brought it back from the brink. It was what you would call a gray boat or a pattern boat. Not much of it left. Without a whole lot to work with. Did not have a set of plans for it. 3 or 4 black and white photos, and some photos of it probably in the 70s would be my guess. Most of the hardware is with it, but other than that, yeah, not a whole lot to work on. No other boats to compare it to, just a few photos. So it's gray boats are probably the hardest thing to restore when it came in, because the previous owner had flipped it over and ripped the bottom off and then stored it outside and left it to the weather. There really wasn't a whole lot left of the boat. It had twisted, had a hog in it, which means the keel would have like a sort of a dip in it. The stem was broken, the keel was broken, just about everything in terms of the structural part of it was there. Everything frame-wise was oil soaked. The planks were incredibly degraded. The entire deck of the front of the boat was no longer attached. It was just kind of more like a giant jigsaw puzzle. So we've been working on this one for about 1.5 years. On average, a gray boat varies. Most shops take, about 2 to 3 years to do one quickly, depending on how degraded they are. I've seen them take 5 years to do one, so they're very difficult to do depending on what materials you have to work with and whether or not you have to track down parts.
It's the history of that Stancraft over there. We haven't filmed a super large amount of footage for it, but here's some of the footage from this boat that we've filmed so far in the past. We're now going to move on to the next boat here that is getting a refresh. We're just detailing it. No, we're doing some haul sides on it as well, alongside the refresh. So let's get some details on the history of that. We'll ask old Chris here on some of the history.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, this is a Grette 18-foot triple cockpit. So you don't very often see a triple cockpit in an 18-foot boat. It's kind of funny because it's by having a triple in there, and the engine itself is only 35 horsepower. So when you get, you know, a full load of passengers, it can't get up onto plane. So that's not ideal. So the current owner is looking to probably repower it. We're just sort of going through some options. Even if we were to put a more modern 4-cylinder in it, I mean, you'd end up with a, you know, 3 to 4 times the horsepower, which would probably be more than enough for this boat. I've known this boat for many years. It was owned by an old feller here when I was growing up. Saw it at many boat shows, and many years ago he passed away, and Andrew actually put the bottom on this boat probably back in the 90s using an older technology. Back then, it's a fiberglass bottom. We called them back in the day a West System bottom. We're doing a set of hull sides on this boat. We're trying our best to preserve what we can, being that it's so old. This particular model is a Grette, but the design was a Dart. So Grette, before they had the resources to make their own boats, licensed this plan from Dart and built it as a Grette. So pretty cool. You'll notice on the hull sides they're missing, but along with the battens were made out of cedar, and due to them being made out of cedar, they were pretty degraded. Previous owner had routered in between the seams to put a piece of mahogany in there to kind of close up the seams a bit at some point. When he routered them, he created a little channel in those cedar battens, which of course over time led to water getting in, and fortunately those cedar battens degraded quite heavily. So she's going to need all battens, which, you know, on a boat like this isn't too hard to do. And then new planks. We're actually going to skin this boat with a modern technique. So what we do is we put on a marine ply and then we plank over top of that. So how that works is you basically plank the boat, pull the planks off, put plywood on the boat, pull the plywood off, paint the insides, put the plywood back on, and then you epoxy, or 5200 depending on how you do it, or where it is on the boat, those planks onto the plywood, taking into account the thickness of the ply. What that does is it makes it so the hull sides become rigid and they don't move, unlike a traditional hull side, which would then move. By doing this, you know, it makes it so that the varnish in between the seams does not crack and move. We've done this on quite a few boats over the years. It works quite well. We're trying our best to preserve what we can on the decks. They're original. They're quite thin in some places. However, not like the hull sides. The hull sides were extremely thin. But yeah, really neat little boat.
As you can tell on this boat right now, we actually have been removing the varnish and coating off of the deck here, as well as the stain. So you can see that the wood underneath is essentially bare at this point. Of course, there is little bits of staining on there as well. But I'm actually just gonna ask Artem here what the process is for removing this and getting these imperfections out of the wood so that we can then go ahead and restain and revarnish the boat. So Artem, I noticed that we did some work on this one here. What exactly is the process for getting this varnish off?
Okay, we usually use this scraper and heat gun. We just hit and scrape It's very fun. It's very sharp scrape.
The deck doesn't look like there's a lot of damage to it, so once this is all scraped off, how do we get the staining out of the wood for when we re-stain and revarnish it?
Usually we have a crack, we put an epoxy inside, we mix it epoxy with a stain and filled up the crack like this. And after sanding, check the lights, every scratches. We need the check and sanding one direction, because if you sanding like this direction, you have a scratches, and after varnish, you see all of scratches. After final sanding, check with the light and see where's the scratches, and after you stain and varnish.
Awesome. Yeah. So that looks really sweet, Artem. So yeah, that's going to be the next step for this one. And then, like Chris was mentioning there earlier, we're going to do the battens down the length of this boat. We're going to be putting on new hull sides, and then of course we'll be doing painting of the water line, and and the varnish and staining. Exciting, eh?
Yes. It's very fun.
Moving on, I thought I'd show you guys this Capri that we have here, this Crisscraft Capri. Now, for those of you with a keen eye, you'll notice that this is very custom. The story behind this boat is there were only ever 40 Crisscraft fin Capris ever produced, and the owner of this boat loved this Capri, but he loved the fin Capri even more. So he actually had it modified. This is all completely custom work into these fiberglass tail pieces here. He got the actual chrome that they would use on the fin Capris, and he got this all built. Now, when this boat first came to us, it was completely barren here. It was just the framing and the bottom, the hull sides, of course, just the outer shell. None of the actual interior of the boat or any of this engine assembly had been installed yet. So the customer himself did some of the paneling and the exhaust work on here. Looks really nice in this boat, and that runs out to these lower exhaust pieces. Whereas these ones, you can take a look here, these are actually the exhaust ports for this blower motor. Now again, I'll state this is completely custom, something I totally love. This has been hot rodded and has been turned into a really fun, awesome boat. So I'm gonna show you guys now the interior of this boat. And again, I'll reiterate, the only parts that we had that were factory or original is we had some of the chrome, the dash, steering wheel, and then the seats. Most of the rest of it had to be built, and we had to design pretty much all of it. The front bulkhead area was also disassembled, so that has been rebuilt as well. But I'll just walk you guys through some of the custom work that we've done on this boat. And this one is going to be absolutely gorgeous when we get finished with it. You can see we have quite a lot of progress to go still. We're going to get this all sanded down, repainted. We have some touch-up varnish areas and stain areas that we're going to be revarnishing. But let's take a little look at this interior here. So there is the interior of this Capri. Now I'll mention this again. All of this is custom, and this has all been put together and built by us, excluding the seats, and of course the dash panel and controls. So we built a full modern wiring harness with waterproof quick disconnect connectors, and we rewired and installed all of it. So all of the gauges on this dash panel are now functioning. They all work perfectly themselves. So we have the blower motor switch, we have the navigation switch, which would be your lights, and then we have the instrument panel switch, which turns the lighting on for this boat on the dash panel. Now the flooring itself, we made custom shifter panel here with a rubber insulator piece. Cue Ball built all of this. We also polished this up and engine turned everything. This shifter bracket was also designed and built by Cue Ball as well. It's using a modern cable, so the action on it is really smooth. In fact, you can actually go to the carburetor and move this throttle using the carburetor linkage. So that's really nice too. And it all just kind of blends together with this hot rod, flashy, shiny kind of design. The stage we're at right now is the fit and finish stage. So we have everything installed just to get a visual on it. Everything will be coming out again, including the carpet and the panels, so that we can reassemble it and make sure it's all fitting really nicely. We still have to do the crash pad as well, which is gonna go all the ways around here. If you'll notice something, these little armrest things are not factory. I noticed when I put this seat up against this back wall here, keep in mind that this originally had an engine bay, and then this was a third cockpit, similar to that Grette, that this seat would have sat in the very back, so the width of the seat was designed for the back. So by moving this seat up into the back of the front area, there's now a huge gap on either side of it. And when we went to install it, I just wasn't stoked with having a big space there. I thought it would be nicer to have something useful in that area. After talking with the customer and determining what kind of mods he would like and what would fit his life best, we decided to make these little armrest pieces. They actually have a use as well. So all of this is all custom made. All the wood, all the upholstery, all of the metal trim, everything on here. Obviously we purchased this latch. All of this was handmade and put together. So on this side, I built a freezer box. The inside of this is epoxy coated, as is the top of this. So this entire box is waterproof. I can actually fill this up with water and it will stay waterproof. And then down at the bottom there, we have a drain that actually leads back down into the bottom of the bilge area. So the idea here is that you can put some bags of ice or some ice cubes in here, throw some drinks in this, and you have a nice cool freezer box area to keep your drinks. But again, all of this was all custom made for this boat. You can see this really cool latch design. And this was all made to the customer's specifications. Ceiling panels were also made from scratch, as they didn't exist originally on here, so we put those in as well. Over on this side, I figured it'd be nice if we had dry storage. So over here we have a nice dry area to keep phones, wallets, that sort of thing, free from the water as you're boating along. That was the design that we went with for the armrests. Now moving on to the electrical area. My background again is I come from mechanics and hot rodding, so getting a project like this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Gave me a lot of freedom and creativity, but I also really enjoy doing wiring. Now I know a lot of people laugh at that. Wiring is a little bit tedious for some, but I actually really enjoy it. So I'm gonna show you guys what I did for the wiring harness for this Capri. So down under here we have the dash panel, and the way that I designed it is that this dash panel is removable. And back here, we have some waterproof harness connectors. So you disconnect these two, and this whole panel is removable. Whereas the older design, how they originally did it is they would just have piles of wires coming in through here, and they would all individually be connected to everything. So you'd have to disconnect this, tip this forward, and then disconnect every single connector point. Whereas now it's just 2 little clicks and you're done. Also put on some additional wires on the harness just in case you ever want to add more, but this is what the harness looks like right now. So over on this side we have our ignition hot, so this will be on when the battery switch in the back is turned on. It doesn't have to have the ignition key turned on for these to be on. That would include the bilge pump on here that is always on, as well as the horn and the lights, just to make sure that you have your safety features ready to go even if the key isn't on at the moment. And over on this side we have our ignition on accessories, so anything like instrument panel lights to these under dashboard lights that I was talking about earlier that are installed. Those will all be connected to this switch here, and it's all just laid out really nice. And you can cover it up like that. And all of the wires that come together go back out and down through this area. The harness runs down along here, goes underneath the floor, and back to the back of the engine area. Finally, as for the front seat, we modified it so that it has these metal brackets here that are bolted straight down to the floor. So on a lot of boats, you'll actually see bracing right here going up against this trim piece, but we reinforced the back of this seat. We took the upholstery off and put metal brackets going straight down. So this whole thing, once it's bolted to the ground, you can actually stand or sit on the back of this and it won't be moving around. Yeah, that's the fin Capri that we have done a ton of work on. Really excited to see this boat once it's fully assembled and put together. And as for the outside of the boat, it's going to be mostly stock. It's going to be mostly the same. The customer did want us to delete the searchlight to keep it a little bit smoother. And then cue ball also built to this little vent intake that we're going to install. And then it'll go up along the inside here, and we'll install that as well. Just as kind of like a nice little detail on this boat. This hood intake actually has a purpose. So air will be forced in and it comes down into this little junction air duct box, and that air gets pushed down into the bottom area and moves air backwards into the engine area, because all of this is actually sealed up with wood paneling, so it's completely smooth back there. So that provides a way for air to get in to the engine area, and then of course the blower mounted right here will push it out the exhaust pipes. For the battery, it's actually under the rear seat, so you just lift this up, pull it out, and you'll find the battery underneath there. The bilge pump is accessible by removing these 3 screws, and this panel comes out and you have a whole open area. Under there you can get to the bilge pump, and then of course this is how you get access to that little drain plug. So everything's really neat. We tried to make it as clean as possible. Now again, this definitely is not factory, but that's the fun part. Bringing hot rodding into the boat world, enjoying what you're building, making custom stuff. That's where the fun is in this for me, myself. Of course, there's boats like this where we're building them back to the way that they were. But if you're into hot rodding and stuff, we plan on doing a lot more of this in the future as well, including rat sink. That's a big plan for it. We want to go crazy like this one and build a bunch of fun custom stuff. So I'm going to walk you guys through all of that with rat sink in the future. Yeah, that's the fin Capri, formerly known as the Capri. And that is going to be an absolutely amazing boat. Once we're done with it, it's going to be one of a kind, and it's going to be rather spectacular once we see it out on the water. This is Brandon, who works up at the front desk here. If you guys call in to Absolute Classics, more than likely you're going to be talking to Brandon. Now, what are some services that we can provide for people who are interested in the wooden boat community?
Thank you. Yeah, so when you call us, basically we can do anything for you. If you're looking for parts for a rare boat, can't always guarantee we're going to get them, but we're definitely going to reach out to all our contacts and see if we can find something for you. We broker, sell every kind of boat you can imagine, even if it's not a wooden boat. We've got sailboats on our website. We'll do fiberglass if we know about it. We do all modern parts. We can do radios, GPS, anything that's in our catalog. We have over 13,000 parts available to us. So, you can give us a call and we can see if we can find something for you. If you have generalized questions, we're more than happy to help you out. If you need guidance on how to sand, varnish, what you should do in this or that situation, we're more than happy to help. If it's an in-depth discussion, we can do consultations with a master boat builder, all sorts of different options for you. So for boat brokerage, for us, we do everything worldwide. So we've just sent a boat to Australia. We've sent boats to Dubai, England, Netherlands. We sent a cruiser to France this year. So even if you're not in North America, we can definitely help you out. Find a boat, organize transportation, broker it through customs, get you through A to Z, everything you need to do. If you've got a boat and you need more information, you want to potentially sell it, restore it, get parts for it, we can certainly help you out with that. From off frame.
We have a late 50s Shepherd Skeeby. It's an outboard, so it actually sits on the back here, and this is going to be another one of our future restorations. So after we get done here with rat sink, we're going to move on to this one, and this boat we're actually going to be doing a complete resto as the way it was. So we're going to be restoring it back to how it looked from factory. We're not going to be doing any funny business with it like rat sink. We're going to make sure that this one goes back the way it was. If you'll remember, that is actually the glass from rat sink. So in case you're wondering what's doing on here, I just thought it looked kind of funny. So there it is for now. But yeah, this will be one of our next projects coming up in the future, so have to stick around to see this one get done. Shepherd's quite a nice boat. They're a Canadian brand and they make quite a nice quality boat, so All of the work on this is really nice, really well done. It's really polished as well. Even looking down at these frames and the flooring, you can see the amount of effort that these Canadian manufacturers go through to make sure their boats are in good condition. Obviously this one has deteriorated from age, but the actual workmanship on it is second to none. So we're excited to rebuild this boat too. So guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Thanks for watching the recap of what we've done in the last 4 months. We got lots of exciting stuff planned, and if you need any assistance in the wooden boat world, we're here to help. We are trying to make this your one-stop shop for all things wooden boats. So we'll see you guys in the next video in about a week here, and until then, thank you so much for supporting our channel. Take care.